is about you can prepare yourself for grad school and what to expect in grad school. So before I begin, I just wanted to ask you a question as to what do you guys think grad school is all about? Feel free to just, you don't have to write it on the chat, just feel free to speak out about it. What do you think grad school is?
For me, it seems like a way to specialize.
Okay, yep. Anybody else?
I think it'd be a way. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It seems like it'd be a good way to establish credibility in a particular field if you were looking to potentially get a job in a very specific field in computer science.
Yep, you're right. Yep. Amy?
I think for me, it's more of a place that you can do research that you want to do.
Okay. Yep, that is also true. So you guys are pretty much on track with about grad school. So it is an advanced program of study, basically, and focused on a particular academic discipline or profession. And then it can either be academic or professional or both. What do I mean by that? Say, if you're doing a computer science degree, if you're doing a master's or a PhD in computer science, then it's an academic degree. On the other hand, if you're going for a law profession, say suppose if you want a JD, Juris Doctorate, or if you want to get an MD, then that is also specialization, but that is a professional specialization, not academic. So there are so those are the two different aspects there are. And what are the types of specialization? You can have just a specialist degree, that is a degree in addition to this degree. Say for example, if you have to teach, if you have to become a school principal, or a teacher, then you have to get a ed.s degree. Or you can do a master's degree, which is 2 years on an average, or there can be a doctoral degree, which takes around 5 to 7 years, give or take. The time it takes for a doctoral degree in computer science is highly dependent on the extent of work which is being done, and sometimes it can be less than 5 or 7 degrees. So we'll talk about that a little bit. So it is advanced program of study. It's unlike an undergraduate degree where you have to satisfy some core course requirements, and you also have to satisfy some liberal arts requirements. So graduate school is a little different than that. It is very focused on a specific discipline with fewer electives. You don't get to have a lot of elective in your coursework. Okay, so if you're going to pursue computer science, then you will have courses related to computer science. Rigorous evaluation of your work by your professors and peers. So your work would be evaluated by your professors and your peers. That is where projects come into play. So all of you must have some experience on doing projects in class. So this is projects, but on a different level. These projects are supposed to be something new, something innovative. Class sizes are usually smaller with more interaction. Work experience can be gained via internship or teaching. And the most important thing is there has to be research, and this research has to be there has to be some novelty in the research. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be a groundbreaking thing, but there has to be some kind of uniqueness in that work that you are doing. A PhD is basically a research degree, okay? In computer science, a master's degree is a technical degree. Now, what's the difference between both of these? If you're doing PhD, then you are basically focusing more on on becoming a professor, or getting involved in a research lab as a research scientist. Whereas when you're doing a master's degree, you are more focused on getting a job and with some amount of specialization that puts you on a different level than a normal than an undergraduate student who is working with you as well. How does that benefit? I will talk about that in the coming slides. There is also another thing which you can pursue, and that is postdoctoral appointments. Anybody heard of the term postdoctoral appointments or postdoctoral research? Nobody? Okay. Postdoctoral appointments are where, say, suppose you just graduated or you got your PhD, and you go and you want to work with a professor for 2 years on a particular research topic. It's basically it's like an employment, but it is working on a research for 2 years, um, and you're going to get paid for that research. So it doesn't have to be innovative. It's just a work, but a work on some research. So that is so many disciplines require students to complete their PhD, complete their postdoctoral research to qualify for an assistant professor position. So it varies from discipline to discipline. So the biggest question is graduate school expensive? For me, I would say, I mean, my answer would be no. Graduate school is not expensive, especially in computer science. Okay, there are more financial aids available for in graduate school. The most, I mean, most of the financial aid is available first for the PhD students and then for master students. Um, why is it available more for the PhD students? Well, the PhD students are doing more work with the department, and the other thing is it is expected that a PhD student would stay at least for 3 years with the department. And they are working on research programs which are directly related to grants. So the way universities work, or because you're thinking about grad school, the way universities work is that a professor brings in a grant from maybe NSF. So NSF stands for National Science Foundation. Say suppose a grant is for $1 million. That grant helps fund student research. It also helps fund the department to some extent, and maybe the university. So so it is expected when a grant comes in, it is expected that students have to do some high quality work, some output related to that grant. And it has to be done on a continuous basis. So it's like it's a continuous program. Something new takes a long time to establish. Say suppose a professor is working on a deep neural network architecture. It usually doesn't take 1 year to do that. It takes at least 2, 3, or 4 years to do that. And you always want to work with one student whom you have trained, and you want that student to be with you throughout the course of the program. That way, you don't have to spend time training a student if he leaves in the middle. Because master's degree takes only 2 years, a student usually leaves the professor, and then the professor has to again train another student to get the work done. So that is why PhD students get funded more first, and then the master students gets funded. Then the question is depends on when you complete your graduate program, before job or after job. This is an important topic. Usually with computer science or any other discipline, um, getting a graduate degree, whether it be masters or PhD, is considered specialization. Sometimes, in order for promotion in the company, you have to gain a specialization. In that context, usually a company would pay for you to get certain credits and complete Say suppose you're working in company A and the company wants you to take up a managerial position, and they say, okay, we cannot give you this position until and unless you get a master's degree. In that case, the company says, okay, we will fund 50% of your tuition fees, or maybe we will waiver 6 credits every semester or every year. So that way somebody else is funding for your graduate education. So that's also a factor to consider. Second, the third one is graduate school pays for full-time students. Okay, how do they pay? One, you can become a teaching assistant, and you can become a research assistant. There are tutors or graders, and there are fellowships. Okay, a TA position can be for 10 hours a week, or it can be 20 hours a week. An RA position is usually 20 hours a week. Tutors or graders are also the same, and fellowships are direct money that you get paid, and it goes towards your tuition. Any questions about these payment opportunities there are? So anybody wants anything that is coming in their mind to be clarified at this moment?
I guess if you're working as an RA, for instance, would
Mhm.
that be like the same research that you are studying?
Good question. So usually if you get, there are two ways you can get hired as an RA. One is where the professor already hires you from the beginning as an RA, and the professor has some research grant with him or her, and you are funded for the entire length of the project. And you have already decided that, hey, I like Professor A, and I want to work with Professor A. I like the research, and I want to do the same research. So in that case, yes, it is related to your field of study. Usually, in some situations, some students end up starting with a master's degree, and then they realize, oh, I need to specialize. I want to get a PhD. In that case, the thought of specialization comes late in the graduate school program. So that time, it takes a while to become a research assistant, because you are spending some time getting to know the professor, getting to know the kind of research being done in your university. So yes, the other thing which I wanted to talk about is that if you are a TA or an RA, usually in a department, then you are also eligible for a tuition waiver, and we call it a graduate tuition waiver, unlike in undergraduate education. So what I mean by that is, it varies from university to university. But say suppose if you get a 10 hours per week TA position or 10 hours per week RA position, then your entire tuition fee is waived. So it's like you are doing service to the university. So if you're doing service to the university, then the university pays you some money, and the university also waives your tuition fee. So the waiving the tuition fee does not mean that your university related expenses are waived. You have to pay computer science. You have to pay the technical fee or any other fees. Those are there, but the tuition fee gets waived. Even if tuition fees do not get waived, a percentage of the tuition fees can get waived. So you get paid, and you also don't have to pay tuition. That is something which is very something which does attract a lot of students as well to this kind of a program. Um, Besides these, you also have something called a student graduate positions. Now, what are student graduate positions? Student graduate positions are positions where you are working as a in an IT in the IT department. Say for example, there are front desk associates who are working at this point in UW-Eau Claire. Those are usually undergraduate positions, but there are also some positions dedicated only for graduate students. Usually, in those positions, they get paid a certain amount of money for working per hour on a per hour basis, and also their graduate tuition is waived. So these are some things to consider, and usually it's a good idea to browse the university websites to understand how this program works. Is this the best fit for me? I mean, this question arises as to, okay, I'm applying to a university, but is the university where I'm applying good or not? Or another thing comes is that, so here you have to answer some questions. First question is know your research focus. Okay, what exactly do I want to do? Answering this question is very difficult in the first year and the second year, but as you become a junior and a senior, it becomes pretty easy to have some sort of an idea as to where you want to go, what path you want to take. Contact professors well before you apply. This is highly important. When you apply for a grad school, don't start the application process 1 month before admissions. You want to stand out to the professors. If you want to stand out, you have to know what the professors are doing, and it will also help you. Say suppose there's this department of computer science and it has 20. You know that if you're applying for grad school, you're going to work with that one professor. So you should try to figure out who that one professor is, or at least try to figure out four professors who closely align with your research, and try to contact them. Say, hey, this is I am so and so. I am in University of Wisconsin Eau Claire. I like to be in this field. I have done some projects. Would you be interested in working with me, or can I work with you? Something like this. Just to talk. Um, just see what kind of information they give you. With the amount of, they can say that they are working on projects that might be some kind of, and if you like those projects, then you can go ahead and continue the discussion further. Choose your recommenders well in advance. This is very important. A recommendation letter, um, in some universities, it depends from university to university. In some universities, recommendation letters are become very important. So you should at least tell your recommenders well in advance that can I use your recommendation in my grad school? At least let the recommender know 6 months in advance that you're going to use their recommendation letter. That's very important because that gives the recommender time to complete time to get some amount of information from you. A recommendation for graduate school is quite different from a recommendation for a summer internship in a company. So it has to be more comprehensive. So it's a good idea to have your CV ready, and also maybe mention some things to the professor that you did, which might be useful in that recommendation letter. So decide this well in advance. Have some research experience which makes you stand out from the crowd. So you're a computer science student. Maybe at this point you're interested in 3D printing. So what kind of project have you done in 3D printing? Any project would do. Any small project would do. Talk about that project. Mention it in your mention it in your statement of purpose. Talk about that with the professor. Well, because in a graduate school, you are not looking to complete courses. You're looking to do research, and doing research means that you have some uniqueness in you, which makes you stand out amongst everybody else. If you don't have, you can build it one step at a time. This is also very relevant. There are certain situations where you haven't quite figured out what you want to do, and that is totally okay. The best thing to do is approach some professors regarding the kind of research they are doing. And if they give you some kind of an indication, that goes a long way for you to decide what you are going to do. So if you don't know your specialization, I would say recommend approaching the professors to know what you can do. Scores are somewhat important. I always stress on this. A good GRE doesn't mean it gives you, you are directly admitted. You want to get admitted in a grad school, but you also want to do high quality research. So for that reason, you have to know the professor in a much better way rather than just through your scores. So the bottom line is start early. GRE is in October as several university deadlines are December. I think there are some universities that have deadlines in November as well. A professor, this is very important. A professor cannot offer you a position unless you complete graduate school requirements. Now, there are two different things. You have to complete some requirements that the graduate school wants, and then you have to complete some requirements that your department wants. Okay, there are two different things. Who takes the precedence? Graduate school requirements take precedence. So say suppose if the graduate school says, okay, we need a TOEFL as a TOEFL as well as a GRE score, otherwise we cannot proceed with their application. Then even if the department professor likes you, the professor cannot do anything unless and until you complete your graduate school requirements. No requirements of the graduate school. Forward your transcripts, letter of recommendation, and other materials to the appropriate receiver. Now, this is, I don't know whether this is relevant now or not. There were sometimes I came across this situation where I had to send the letter of recommendation to the department and I had to send my GRE score to the graduate school. So there were two different places that I had to send materials to. If this is the case, then you will get to know about it, and just be careful to as to whom you should send materials. You can send it to one person. That person will send it to the department again, but it takes time. So sending it to the correct person is much better than sending it to one and then waiting that person to forward it to somebody else. So the question is, what kind of subfields are there? Well, you have a bunch of subfields in computer science. You have computer vision, artificial intelligence, scientific computing, robotics, database, computational linguistics, natural language processing. Um, the question is, which one is best for you? That depends on what do you like? Um, do I like to work with OpenCV a lot? Then obviously there is some amount of computer vision work that you would like to do. Do I like to work with Arduino boards? Do I like to work with Raspberry Pi? Then obviously robotics is something which you have in mind. Do you work with a lot of data? Do you generate classification algorithms with data? Then obviously go for data mining. Do you work with a lot of text information and try to extract meaningful semantics from text information? Well, then natural language processing is something which you want to do. Do you like coding a lot? Well, that's pretty vague because everybody codes, but you have to have, everybody in computer science does some amount of coding, but you have to take it a bit further as to, okay, what do I want to do with this coding? So do I want to somehow find out that I can test code to find out if the code is better? Well, then you are working with software engineering, right? You're doing software quality assurance or quality testing. So those are some things which you need to ask yourself as to what am I good at? What do I want to do? And that might give you some amount of idea as to what you want to specialize in. Um, why is CS a good career at this point of time? It's expected to grow substantially in the upcoming years, provides excellent foundation. Salaries are twice the national average, and there are multiple industries who want to hire a CS graduate. Um, I think this is something which I should bring up in this topic that during this pandemic, when there was a high amount of unemployment rate, CS degrees or anybody who the technology sector was doing pretty well. With I think the unemployment rate was 1 point something over there. So CS is in everything, and there is a very good potential for a CS student to get job in any field where there is some amount of technology and software present. So it's a very good degree, and getting specialization is very much relevant to that degree. So, well, I'm not going through the career prospects. These are some things. Well, I think I should discuss this. Yeah. Software application developer. So, okay, you like to code, you like object-oriented programming, you have done a lot of coding, and that's it. That's the best. That's what you like. You don't want to apply the code in something else. Well, then software developing is what you um, are good at. So if you're good at software developing, then you should try to take up a specialization in software engineering, because in software engineering you are teaching students, you're trying to find out how to write code better. You're trying to find out a good sequence of processes that you should be following to write a code better. So that's something which you could do. If you're good at web development, then that's your field to follow. Then you have database administrators, you have computer network architects, you have computer system analysts. So these are different fields or different careers that a CS student can take up. They can become a data scientist, machine learning engineer. Both of them are two different things. Data scientist is more focused on statistics, whereas machine learner is a person who takes those statistics and creates a code or writes a code to implement those statistics. So that's the difference between a data scientist and a machine learner. Computer science researchers are those who are focusing on research. A professor is a person who is teaching in a university. There's also full stack developers who are developing web-based systems with databases. So I threw in this slide over here just to give you an idea of what are the career prospects that you have in computer science. And then there's this big decision you have to make. Either what am I going to do? Do I go to academia or do I take up Silicon Valley? Well, both of them have their pros and cons. It depends on your what do you like? Do you like a fast-paced environment? Do you like to be challenged every day? Then yes, Silicon Valley is a good place for you. Do you like to do a lot of research and you like to teach students, then obviously academia is what you want to be in. Um, so that's more of a personal question that only you can answer. Um, so what are the possible options that you can be? You can first of all you can do your master's degree, a master's in computer science. And then that qualifies you for being a computer science specialist. And then you can apply for many jobs in software companies. Okay, they are. But if you want to teach, if you want to enter the academia world of academia, then it is most of the time um, required to get a PhD. Um, and what kind of opportunities do you have after you get a PhD? Well, you can become a visiting assistant professor. You can become an instructor, a postdoctoral researcher, or you can become an assistant professor. Now, what are the differences between all of these things? Well, when you start off your career after getting a PhD, um, usually it is it is difficult to get an assistant professor position, but you do get visiting assistant professor positions. The difference between both of them is in visiting assistant professor, maybe there is an assistant professor or a professor who has just gone on a sabbatical for 2 years. So to fill up that position, they are asking you to join. And this is the best opportunity for you because they are looking for newly newly graduated students. So that is why you can apply for visiting assistant professor positions. Instructor is somebody who has completed his master's degree and is trying to teach in a university. Okay, so if you're an instructor, that means you can teach if you only have your master's degree. You don't need to have a PhD for becoming an instructor. A postdoctoral researcher is just what I said before. So if you complete your PhD, you want to gain some more experience in some kind of a postdoctoral work, some kind of research with somebody, then you can work with a professor, and that qualifies as a postdoctoral researcher. So, so these are the this. So as you can see that there's the salary is obviously a lot higher, and in order for qualifying to in these tiers, it's specialization is very important. So CS is everywhere. This is most important. Um, Right now, you are just trying to get your courses done. But in your graduate school, you will see that computer science has can be used for several different things. For example, this is an example where computer science deep learning was used um, in order to predict the image of a black hole, right? So it's a collaborative work. You are a computer scientist. Say suppose you like deep learning, so that's fine. Um, you now work with in collaboration with other students in a team. In this team, your work is to develop the deep learning software, while there is a student from physics who is trying to explain to you the features of a black hole, the physics behind black hole. There is another student who is trying to work on getting images inside your deep learning software using OpenCV. So now you're working in a group. You are the specialist in deep learning, and you are contributing your specialization in this field. What's the outcome? Well, the outcome is you get to graduate. You get to graduate with a thesis or a paper or a dissertation. Now, what are the differences between these? Well, when you are doing your master's degree, you can graduate with a thesis or you can graduate with a paper. A thesis is some amount of work showing novelty. So say suppose today you are doing deep learning and you found out that if you change if you tweaked some layers in the neural network and you added an extra layer and you took up layer A and okay, I'm just blabbering. Hold on. Say suppose you are building a deep learning software. A deep learning software has many layers in them. You found out that if you take out layer A and layer B and you plug in layer C, then the results are much more accurate. Well, that is something which you found out, nobody else did. So that becomes your thesis. Okay. And then you can write that thesis and you can present it in front of your peers, in front of your professors, and the professors say, yep, you've done a good job. Congratulations, you've got your master's degree. So that is something which you are doing. Well, everybody's working in a group, but your contribution is that deep learning software. So that becomes your thesis. So that is a little bit of what graduate school is about. It's more about bringing in novelty and less about completing coursework. CS can be. There's also an aspect of geography in CS. Recently, if you've seen Google Maps, there is a lot of networking going on in Google Maps. So if you have to go from point A to point B, what do you use? Do you use Dijkstra's algorithm or do you use A star algorithm? Which one is better? Is Dijkstra's better or is A star better? Do we use DFS? We use BFS for navigating through files. What's good for us? So that is where you can use your expertise and you can plug it in with a GIS or a geographic information system. So now you're again working in a group, but now you are contributing to a group that is developing a road networking software. Okay, so these are some things which you can consider. Another field is bioinformatics. Well, what is bioinformatics? There's a lot of, one example would be gene expression analysis. There are millions of genes in a human genome. So that's a lot of information. How do we find out gene A is responsible for a sleeping disorder? Well, you have to use some amount of computation because there is a lot of genes involved. Then you have to visualize and show that, okay, these are the genes which are interacting with gene A, gene B, and gene C, and they are responsible for causing this sleeping disorder. It's not always possible for a biologist to figure these relations out. A biologist would be more interested in experiments or how we can get the gene to show itself or express itself. But the relation between one gene and the other gene is more of a software work where you are trying to write these algorithms which can create the network and show the interaction of one gene with another gene. So there are a lot of places where a computer scientist can apply their expertise and and gain experience and also graduate in the process. So it's less of filling in check boxes, but more about applying your knowledge and doing something new. So I'm a little this. So I have some experience for some links over here which I've pulled up. Why did I choose these links? Well, because I graduated from NDSU, so I know the website layout a little better. So that's why I put it up over here. So the first thing is how to apply to a grad school. That's the first thing, and that obviously requires you to visit the website of the grad school. And when you will visit the website of the grad school, you'll see that it. Wait, can you guys see my website, or do you see the PowerPoint?
I think we see the slides.
Hold on. What am I sharing? Hold on. Let me quickly stop sharing. Share content. Share screen. Now what do you see?
We see the site.
Do you see the website?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the first thing you do is you visit the website. So this is a graduate school website, and then they will give you all these information as to apply to grad school. So when you try to apply to grad school, there are different branches where you can apply. So you can apply as a domestic student or a permanent resident student, or you can apply as an international student. Now, different things have different requirements and different timelines. I was an international student, so I had to do everything well in advance so that to give that processing buffering time amount of time, because there are a lot of legal documents required. So, but if it's a domestic or a permanent resident application, then it usually doesn't take a lot of things. Usually does not take that long. Okay, so then it all usually tells you what are the requirements. So in this case, and it varies from university to university. Statement of purpose, letter of recommendation, transcripts, and the test scores. While what is this university doing? It says some departments require the GRE and GMAT prior to admission. Well, now you are in a dilemma. Okay, do I need my GRE or not? Well, that question can be only answered by the website in that of computer science. So you have to go to computer science website to see whether they require a GRE or not. If they don't, then don't give a GRE score. Um, then again, there is this TOEFL. So you guys know what a TOEFL is? Anybody? No?
Amy does.
Okay.
In the chat.
So this website, due to some reason, says that everybody has to have a TOEFL. So TOEFL is basically a test of English as a foreign language. That's one of the standardized tests. So these are some requirements for a grad school that you have to fulfill. The next step that you do is you visit the department website. Well, the department website, in the department website, what are you actually looking for? You're looking for the degree requirements, and you're looking for faculty research. Those are two most important things. So the first thing which I'm going to go in this website is I'm going to look for degree requirements. So let's see, future students. That's what I'm going to look at. And when I go over there, the first thing I'm going to see is the graduate programs, which this university has computer science and software engineering as graduate programs. If you're looking for software engineering, then yes, this might be a good place for you. And I click on it. It brings me to this website that has admission requirements and has degree requirements. So let's look at admission requirements, and then it lays out, okay, what is required from me. And over here, they say that, okay, we need TOEFL, we need GRE as well. Does it say GRE? Yep. So GRE as well. Okay. And then the degree requirements, this kind of gives you an idea of what to expect. The first thing that you see is there are pretty less courses required to complete the master's degree compared to a undergraduate program. But there is this thing which is called a master's paper, and that contributes to 14 to 16 of the credits. So what is that? That is the innovative work that you are doing. Okay, so say suppose you are developing a new app, okay, and nobody has done it before, or maybe somebody has done it before, but you're trying to perfect it. So that's where you get these credits. So just like you have credits for CS 493, I think undergraduate research, these are more of that, but on an extended level. Um, and then PhD is usually requires 90 credits. So if you look over here, master degree requires, I think, 36 credits, and a PhD requires 90 credits. And then over here, you see that there is this one which says doctoral dissertation. A dissertation is a comprehensive work with some new ideas that you have. Like consider it this way. If you have a master's thesis, then doctoral dissertation is almost 3 to 4 times more work than a master's thesis. So it's much more comprehensive. Or maybe you can think of it this way: the amount of work that you did in one master's thesis, you may have to do 2 or 3 or 4 equal amount of work to get a doctoral dissertation. And usually this one is usually around 40 to 50 credits just for doctoral dissertation, where you're working with a professor on a particular research. Any questions about this idea, doctoral dissertation? Okay. What else do I have? Faculty research. This is the most important thing. You go to a website. The first thing when you're trying to shortlist universities, you have to go to the website of the university to see what research interests they have. So these are the ideas of research. These are the kinds of research that the people are doing in this university. That kind of gives you an idea of who to approach. Say, suppose if you like software engineering, then you just approach this professor, say what kind of work are you doing, I'm interested, and they will give you an idea, an overview of that. Sometimes it becomes difficult. Say for example, if you click on this, then you obviously go to a website where the person lists what kind of work they have done so far. Something might interest you. Okay, I like this user experience with web browsing small screens. So how do I get this paper? Is there a way I can get this paper so that I can know more? So one way is to approach the professor and ask the professor, hey professor, can you give me that paper? The other thing you can do is go to Google Scholar, and over there you can just type in that paper, and then pops up as an option. Now the problem starts here. This paper is in Science Direct. If I click on it, and if I click on download PDF, and I get that paper over there, now I can read through this paper and see what kind of interesting stuff the professor has done, and is it something which I am interested in. If you are, then okay, you share some of your input about this paper with the professor, see what the professor tells you, and then the professor might think, oh, the student is good, the student is interested in my work, so maybe I can get him to be my research assistant, and then he or she will approach you with that offer if you are interested. Does this make sense? Sometimes what happens is sometimes what happens is that if you try to download this and you don't have access, I do know that happens some of the times. But in that case, you could directly approach the professor, ask the professor, hey, I'm interested in this paper, but I don't have access. Could you just share it with me? And the professors would do that. It's not a problem. So that is about research. So research is very important. So the first thing you need to know is you need to have a focus, and that focus needs to align with the professor. So I've kept some more web pages. So this one is from Berkeley's website, where this is a professor, and the professor has laid out their whatever work they are doing, their research interests. There's a personal homepage. There's a publications list. So you can go to this publication, check out what the professor has published, etc. And So you see the difference is this is a PhD thesis where I mean the word thesis and dissertation can be used interchangeably, and this is a master's report. Now, master's report is less amount of work compared to a thesis or dissertation. It just means that this whoever did the master's report was more interested in getting a job in the industry rather than being in academia. So that's why a master's report is there to make that happen without any problems. Thesis is done mostly by people who want to become a professor or who want to engage in more research. Okay, my experience, a little bit about me, my journey. I came to the United States in 2016. I joined in as a grader for a department. There was a little bit of confusion when I received my letter of acceptance. In that, it was written I was supposed to be a research assistant. When I came here, there was a confusion and say that, oh no, we made a mistake. The professor is not here. So I joined in as a grader, and that grader was for 20 hours a week. That because I was working more than 10 hours a week, the department policy is that if a grad student works more than 10 hours a week for the department, then the grad student gets a certain amount of stipend, and the grad student also gets their tuition waived. So that's how I didn't have to pay tuition fees because my tuition was waived. You could also become a TA. You could also become an RA. Okay, if you I started off with as a grader, then I proceed, then I got promoted to a TA. In TA, I was teaching a class, and then after that, after doing TA for 2 semesters, I became a research assistant with one of my advisors. So I realized I was a little late in realizing what kind of research I'm going to do when I came over here. So it took me, I think, it took me 6 months to get my stuff figured out, and then I approached the professor after 6 months and told her that I want to do research with you. The professor said that okay, gave me some homework to do, told me read this paper, come back to me, discuss a little bit about this with me, and this went on back and forth for around 2-3 months. And then from the next semester, that means after 2 semesters, the professor said that okay, let's work together. I will give you an RA. And that's how I became an RA, and I was an RA for 2.5 years before and during that time I completed my degree. Summer options is very important. So in summer, you can either work 40 hours per week as an RA, or there are other summer jobs available in the department which you can do. Um, my Personally, what I did was I worked in the department as an RA. I also did some instructor experiences with Johns Hopkins Center for Talented Youth, and I highly recommend. And if anyone is interested, and if anyone wants to pursue teaching as a career, then this is a very good, very important thing to do. Johns Hopkins Center for Talented Youth. So this is a program where you can go and teach gifted students. These are high school students, and it's kind of like a camp, a boot camp, you would say, but you get paid at the same time for doing this. There are different computer science programs um, are held across the entire country. There are some centers in there are some held in New York, some held in Baltimore, some held in California, etc. So you can work as a just like you can work like a TA, and you gain some experience at the same time. So this is what I did in one of my summers, and then okay, where is it gone now? Okay. Yep, and then my research is related to image processing and deep learning. Internships in grad school, highly, highly, highly recommended, but there are restrictions. Like I'm not sure what restrictions you might have, but as an international student, I had some restrictions that I cannot work for a year after I join a grad school. But then after that, I could work. But then there are also some departmental restrictions. So that varies from department to department. In some cases, usually you have to know this in advance. Say suppose I want to teach in a university, or I want to just teach for one semester in a university because as an instructor, because I got an offer. Well, you have to ask your permission from your department that, hey, can I do this? Can I teach while I'm doing my while I'm doing my graduate study? If the department says yes, you can do it, then go ahead and do it. I would highly recommend doing that. Because sometimes getting an internship credit is mandatory for a course, but sometimes it's not mandatory. It is elective, and there are some times when universities are very strict about the fact that if it is an elective, then we will not let you do it. Okay, so just be careful about this. Um, every summer, always try to align your internship with research experience. Summer is a very good opportunity to gain some more experience. So if you want to teach computer science, then go ahead and try to get an internship or for a summer teaching camp, something like that. If you want to gain software development experience, then go for a summer internship. But then always ask your department as to what are the requirements that I need to meet before I get these internships. In my department, we had to complete 4 core courses in order to qualify for an internship, but it may vary from department to department. Um, so to summarize, the fact is graduate school is not difficult. Graduate school just requires a lot of time and contribution from you. Stay focused. Um, because it's very difficult to stay focused for 4 or 5 straight years on that same topic. Sometimes it's very easy to get frustrated as to, okay, my research is going nowhere. I've spent 2 years, I cannot get a single output that I like. What am I going to do? That happens every time. During my work for 3 years, for the first 1.5 year, I just spent trying to understand the topic. And it was frustrating. Some nights code would not run, and then I had a lot of hiccups. But then once you get everything figured out, getting to do something innovative comes naturally. So you need to have that patience. Okay. Stay connected with the professors. That's very important. Always approach the professors if you have any questions. Regular weekly meetings are something which professors always do if you're working as a research assistant. If you're not working as a research assistant, you can still work with the professor and complete your dissertation. If you do so, you should always have weekly meetings. Research, that's taken for granted. You have to do that. Time management is important, because you are doing research. Research takes a lot of time, but at the same time you're also doing some courses. So say for example, in my situation, you don't have to take 5 courses. That's not what you do. Maybe you have to take 2 courses or 3 courses. You're doing a lot of research, you are liking your research, you spend your entire night doing research, and you have an exam the next morning. So don't do that. Try to keep a balance between everything. And de-stress, don't forget to de-stress. If you work for 2 straight nights and your code is not working well, take a break for one night, go and watch a movie, and then come back and try it again. Now some sensitive questions. Whenever you work on a dissertation or a research, you always work with an advisor. So today, suppose I like computer vision. I like to work with deep neural networks. And in my university that I selected, there is only one professor who is working with deep neural networks. Everything is going fine for 1 year, for 1.5 year. But then suddenly I realized, oh, I don't like deep learning anymore. Why? Because my output is not good. You worked 1.5 years to come to this stage, and then because your output is not going, not what you would prefer, you would like to change the advisor. That's not recommended. Um, if you think that the advisor is not responding to your questions and is not being able to cater to your thoughts or your way of working, then that's a different issue. Then that is some discussion that you need to have with your advisor. Say that, hey, there are some problems or some things we need to sort out before we can move forward. Those are your concerns. That is fine. But just giving up a research because you're not getting the good output, that is not a good idea because you've spent 2 years trying to come to this position. Just stick a little longer to get some more ideas about it. And it's going to work. It takes a while, but it does work. Work while studying, yes, you can do that, but then you have to figure out how much time you're going to allocate for that. So if you're working in the more if you're working at night and you are doing research in the morning, then that becomes very difficult because research requires a lot of time and a lot of thoughts. So be careful with work while studying. It's not like undergraduate where you can just come to class and then spend 4 hours for your homework and then be done with it. Graduate research takes a long time, and sometimes you might not even know that you're spending 5 hours in the computer trying to get one code to work. So be careful while you're trying to do full-time study as well as full-time work. Being involved in graduate student organizations, again the same thing. It's very common to come to enter graduate school and try to say that, okay, I want to join this organization because I like them. Well, that's good, but your graduate work requires a lot of commitment from you, so make sure you don't do more than what is expected. Work on multiple projects. Say suppose today I like deep neural networks, so I'm going to work on that project. But I also like bioinformatics. I like gene expression analysis. I'm also going to work with that. I also like may say suppose mathematical modeling. I'm going to work with that. No, now you are doing multiple things at one point of time. You're working with multiple professors at one point of time. Not a good idea. Be specializing in your field is important. That's how you can justify yourself as a grad student, as a PhD student, that I specialize in this. I do not work in everything, but I specialize in something. So that's very important. Having multiple graduate degrees, not a problem, but if you're trying to juggle two graduate degrees at the same point of time, that is not a good idea. Say suppose you are trying to get a master's in computer science, or also trying to get a master's in business. No, that's not a good idea, not a good way to do it. I've seen many people do this because there are overlapping courses between these two, between a PhD in computer science and a master and an MBA. That's not a good idea to do. You can take courses that are relevant to your specialization. So when I was in grad school, I took courses related to GIS because I wanted to specialize in image processing in geographical information systems. That is fine. That is where you're building your specialization. But taking a course which is completely sidetracked from your actual requirements just because there are some courses that are connected between them is not a good idea. Plan of study is very important. By the second semester, you should have this discussion with your advisor. Okay, what do you expect from me? How many courses should I be taking? What courses should I be taking that are relevant to my degree? So if you want to do bioinformatics, then you have to take computer science core courses. You have to take 2 or 3 courses that are relevant to gain the expertise that is required to do research in bioinformatics. So this is a little bit about graduate school. So you get an idea that the requirements are a little different from undergraduate institution. In undergraduate, you are more focused on completing a course. But in graduate school, you're not focused on completing the course. You are focused on completing research. And the courses are involved in that. I mean, there would be 2 courses you are taking a semester, and that is fine. You're taking 2 courses and you're taking a bunch of research credits. So that is how it goes in graduate school. And the courses that you're taking in graduate school are more related to the research that you are doing. If you're doing research on bioinformatics, then you may be taking Introduction to Bioinformatics or gene processing from the biology department. If you're interested in physics or in black hole detection, then you're taking gravitational courses on gravity with the physics department, maybe one or two courses, so that you can gain some experience with that and apply it in your research. So that's a difference between a grad school and undergrad school in a nutshell. And what do you want to gain out of this? Well, if you want to join the industry, then master's is fine. But if you want to do teaching or research, then PhD is what you should aim for. Um, Questions and concerns now, I would like to take them. Anybody has any questions they want to ask about this?
Yeah, I had one. Um, do you think uh, master's program would be good to do right after a bachelor's, or would it be more useful once you're in industry for a while?
So your question is, would it be good to do masters after bachelor's?
Yeah, doing it straight through, or do it while you're in industry.
Okay, good question. So, Abdullah, the question that you're asking, I think you have made up your mind to join the industry, right?
Yes.
Okay, so for you, if you've already made up your mind to join the industry, then I would recommend joining the industry first. Um, you can enter the industry as just an entry-level software developer, okay? And then you gain some experience slowly and steadily. And then you can then approach your company and say that, hey, I want to pursue graduate study. I want to do masters in computer science. Can you help me out? Usually, several companies or industries sponsor some amount of funding for your degree. So that might be good for you. So you can work at the same time, you can get your degree. You can do two courses in one semester, or you can also do one course in one semester. You already have a job, so full-time job, so you don't have to think about graduating and getting a job. So you can take it slow. That is one way of doing it. The second way of doing it is, you've got your undergraduate degree. Congratulations, everything is done. Immediately join a master's degree. So when you join for a master's degree immediately, you can join as a TA or a RA. For that, you need to talk in advance with the department to know what they offer. Usually, many departments, if they take up master student or they take a PhD student, they have a rule that they will offer some amount of funding. If they do offer some amount of funding, then you're good to go. That's not a problem at all. Even if they don't, 2 years, you first join the master's degree or the master's program, and then from the second semester you can just get some amount of funding for you. So what happens is that in that case, you just finish your master's in 1.5 years or maybe 2 years. I've seen many students finishing it in 1.5 years, and they just apply for positions and then they get it. So it's up to you, whatever you want to do. But if you already got a job and it's a good job in the industry, then I recommend doing the job and then simultaneously doing your graduate study or completing your master's. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Anybody else? No questions about PhD? Nobody interested?
Wait, I do have a question. Did you get your master's and your PhD, or did you go straight for your PhD?
Good question. So this is how it worked. When I came to United States, I already had a master's degree from my home country. So when my advisor looked at that, She said that you don't need to get 90 credits for the PhD program because you already have a master's. You just need 60 credits. Remember in that slide I showed you earlier that the master's required 32 credits or something like that. So some of those credits can be counted because there are overlapping courses. And sometimes universities do allow you to just do 60 credits because you have a master's. So if you didn't have a master's, then you had to do 90 credits. But because you have a master's, then those 30 credits are immediately taken off and you can do 60 credits of work. So get that clarified with the university before you apply. I mean, that's a good thing to know even before you apply as to how many credits do you need. Usually, if you are really looking for getting a PhD, getting into PhD program, but because you're an undergraduate student and they are not, and it's very competitive, it's a good idea to join as a master's student, and then once you are in the department in the university, change your degree to a PhD. So what that does is allows you to get a TA or an RA for a continuous basis, or you can do masters in that university, and with those 30 credits, you can apply to another university for PhD. Instead of doing 90 credits, now you do 60 credits. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Questions?
Yeah, just a quick clarification question.
Mm-hmm.
When you say RA, you specifically mean research assistant in this context, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Why did you ask that question?
Gotcha. Because in undergrad, I know that RA can also mean resident assistant if you're living on campus.
Sure. Sure. No. There are also RAs in graduate school. The thing about being a graduate assistant is that a graduate assistant has to have, in most of the cases, the tuition covered. Does that make sense? As far as I know, I think if you are an RA in the university, do you get your tuition waived, Chris?
I do know that resident assistants, yeah, they definitely do get some kind of stipend, but I don't know that they get it completely waived.
Okay. Okay.
It's
Yeah.
just
So
their
I can
housing
clarify.
related expenses are.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can clarify real quick at Eau Claire. At UW-Eau Claire, at least, they will reimburse you for most of your housing expenses, but it doesn't affect tuition.
Okay, yeah, that's the difference. Because I've worked with as a TA, an RA, whatever position. If we had a 10 hours per week position, then it would pay stipend. The stipend amount was pretty minimal, but the best thing was that the entire tuition fee was waived. And that is one of the biggest factors contributing to anybody who wants to do graduate studies. Because you get to basically, I mean, you get this experience, but at the same time you don't have to pay a lot for this experience, because you are basically doing service to the department by being a grader or being an RA or whatever. Um, and then I also worked in the information technology services as a graduate student assistant. That one also had a graduate tuition waiver program. So there's a difference between graduate assistants and undergraduate assistants. So graduate assistant positions usually provide tuition waiver. Questions, anybody? Any more?
I guess just one quick question.
Mhm.
Did you happen to have any advice for like undergraduates looking to get involved with research before graduate school?
Okay. Uh, about that, at UW-Eau Claire, you guys have a lot of opportunities for that. If you have already figured out what you want to do, the first thing you should be doing is looking at our websites, our research expertise, and based on that, approach us regarding what you want to do. So the thing is that if you want to pursue graduate study and if you want to pursue PhD, then there is no other better way to get a PhD rather than getting published. Does that make sense? So by publishing, I mean that getting a paper in Google Scholar or something like that. Um, sorry, getting a paper in any university, any undergraduate conference, and then once you get that paper out over there, it will be indexed in Google Scholar. So that's the basic idea. Um, so if you are interested in, say, suppose, say, suppose security, right? You're interested in cybersecurity, and there is a professor in the department who does cybersecurity. So you approach that professor and say that, hey, I want to do some research on cybersecurity with you. That research allows you to present a poster in the Circa. Have you heard of Circa, Aaron?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So
Yeah.
you can, yep. So you can present in Circa a little bit of work that you did. Um, and you can also present some research work that you did in maybe NCUR, the National Council of Undergraduate Research. Um, and you can write that on your CV that you have presented. You actually specialize because you have presented in a conference some amount of work related to this field, and it's innovative because maybe someone has done before something quite relevant to that, but you don't know about it. You have done your research. You have looked at Google Scholar. You have looked at everybody else who has done some amount of research in that, but you have contributed a little bit to this ocean of knowledge, and that is something which is yours. That makes you stand out from the rest of the crowd, and that is what usually um, is a good way to, I would say, to present yourself to an advisor of a graduate institution even before you apply to that institution. So you worked with, suppose you work with maybe you work with me in UW-Eau Claire. You have one poster, you have one publication, and then you approach this professor in maybe suppose UW Madison, and you say to the professor that, hey, I have worked on this on this field. These are what I have found out. I'm very interested in continuing this research, and I would like to do it with you. What do you think are my are my chances, or are my perspectives to become your undergraduate research assistant? And then see what that professor has to tell you. You should try doing this at least to, I'm pretty sure you'll get at least 10 to 12 professors in different universities with whom your research aligns. You should try to do this with each and every one of them. I'm pretty sure one or two of them will get back to you with positive feedback. Because when you're trying to pursue graduate study, you are basically focusing more on research. So try to target being a research assistant from the beginning. If you get that, then it's good. If you don't get that, then you get to be teaching assistant or a grader or any other position, and slowly move into being research assistant. Aaron, does that answer your question to some extent?
I'd say so. Thank you.
Yeah. Best way to do this is approach the professor well before you actually apply to the university. So I recommend doing this research at least 2 semesters in advance. Figuring out which university, which professor you like, or which professor's research aligns with your interests, and then moving forward from there. That being said, you don't have to become an RA even while you're pursuing your PhD. There are some universities that make it mandatory for you to become an RA as a doctoral student. There are some universities who allow you to do some other thing, but at the same time do research with to get your doctoral degree. So just try to think of it this way: getting your doctoral degree and being a research assistant are sometimes they are the same thing, and sometimes they can be different. So when you are doing your doctoral degree and you're also working as a research assistant, you are basically writing your thesis or your dissertation on what you are working as a research assistant as well. Does that make sense? So say suppose if the professor is working on deep neural networks and the professor tells you, you should be exploring this angle to get some new ideas. You explore that angle and then you get some information about it. And that is something new. So very good. So you are worked as a research assistant. You've got some stipend and you also have your dissertation done. So that is the best way to do it. But sometimes what happens is that a professor can take you and let you do doctoral dissertation, but the professor cannot fund you. Does that make sense? The professor can allow you to do research with them, but the professor cannot pay you for being a research assistant because the professor does not have any grant at the moment. That happens. If that happens, usually you work as a TA or you work as a grader in the department, and at the same time you do research with the professor to get your dissertation completed. Does that make sense?
It was pretty clear to me, at least.
All right. Anybody else? Any questions? Any thoughts about this process? No? Okay, then I think we are good. If you have any more questions, just reach out to me. If you want any other clarification. Remember that different universities have different research expertise. It depends on what professor is working on what research. So you don't want to find yourself in a position that, okay, I like this university because it is a Ivy League university and it has a very good reputation. You enter that university, but then after 1 year you realize that there is nobody doing research in your relevant to your field in that university, and now you're stuck. You have to either move to a different university or because your research expectations are not being met. So the research is more important over here. So it's a good idea to get to know what you want to do research in, and then look at the department website, see what kind of work the professor has done in this field, and then approach the professor saying that what you are interested in, and does the professor have some projects that the professor is working on. If you get a positive feedback, then move forward with that university. If not, then try to look for some other university. However, if the professor says that, hey, I cannot fund you right now, but I'm really interested, why don't you apply? Let's start working, and then I'll see what I can do. That's also a good positive. That's also a positive response. So I would highly recommend moving forward with that. Okay, but be ready to do a lot of spend a lot of time trying to think of innovative ideas in your topic. Like when I came for the first time, I was trying to work with computer vision algorithms. I was trying to figure out a better way to process satellite images. And I had to learn a lot of different algorithms to specify or to find out which one would be better. To get that kind of information, I think I spent around 1.5 years just trying to learn different algorithms which are there in this field and how these vision algorithms work with geographic information systems. And then and it took a toll because the thing is that you are trying to do something new, but then you are spending months and months, you're trying to just educate yourself in order to do something new. That gets a little frustrating, but it's also the patience which is very important. So you spend some time trying to educate yourself, and then after that you keep applying whatever you learn, trying to find out some kind of results which make your process stand out from the rest of the researchers. And then you approach your professor and say, hey, this is what I did. Do you think this is a good idea, or do you think this is good? Do you think we can proceed forward? The professor gives you an advice and says, okay, I think somebody has done this before. Why don't you take this idea and build on this idea again? And so it's a back and forth exchange with the professor, and it's happening every week. You are doing something, and the professor says, okay, this is good. Try this. Try something new again. And this happens throughout your graduate degree. Eventually, you have to graduate, right? In order to graduate, you have to present your work to a graduate committee. In this case, a committee is basically a group of professors in the department who will evaluate whether your work is up to the mark. Is it a work that a graduate student has the graduate student done enough work to graduate as a master's student, or has the graduate student done enough work to graduate as a PhD student? So if they look at your research and they judge your research, and then they say, okay, yep, this is good, but try to do something more, try to add this graph, try to add more optimization algorithms, and then we will again meet to decide whether you did it, whether it's okay or not. And you make those changes, you talk with them, and then you again have a second final round of presentation where you introduce in front of them that, okay, I took your advice and here are the changes which I made, and now everything is fine. The professors look at that again and say, okay, yep, I am happy with what you have done. You are now ready to graduate as a master's student, or you are ready to graduate as a PhD student. All these things are happening simultaneously. At the same point of time, you're also completing some degrees, some courses that are relevant to your degree. But the amount of courses required is very less compared to the amount of courses that you're completing in undergraduate degree. So that's a little bit in a nutshell of what happens. All right, guys. Chris, you want to take over, or somebody?
Sure.
Yep.
Thank you so much for presenting today, Dr. Gomes. It was very informative.
Yep. Yeah. I was also. It's really good to talk about these things with an undergraduate student, because obviously at UW-Eau Claire, I do see that most of the students in computer science are pretty focused, and it's a good idea to get involved in some kind of research from the beginning. Doing research allows you to know your area of expertise, and it will also help you in your graduate school to select with whom you want to work, because it's kind of a partnership, I would say, where you have to work with a professor for, I think, 2 years in a master's degree, or maybe 4 to 5 years in a PhD degree. So you have to you so it requires a lot of contribution from your side. It requires to be very much punctual, or very much um, I mean on time, I would say, being very proactive. It also requires some amount of some kind of liking for that subject. So if you like robotics, then yes, it will motivate you to innovate in robotics. But if you like robotics and you decide that, okay, I want to do software engineering in my PhD, you won't feel that kind of a motivation, because you're not doing what you like. So that aspect is very important, because if you're taking a course, okay, you like software engineering, you've taken the course. Taking a course is easy. You can, even if you don't like that course, you can still learn about that course and get a good grade. But if you don't like your research or what you are doing, then it becomes very difficult to innovate in that research. It doesn't come naturally. So that is something which everybody should focus upon before entering a graduate school. So decide on your expertise, and based on your expertise, only apply to universities that fulfill your needs.